We can give it a few seconds. Okay. I think we should be live.
Okay. Aloha, everybody. Can you see me? Can you hear me? All that great stuff. I love seeing everybody in the chat already talking. It's fantastic. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget also to get your packet for this particular one. It's going to be super helpful. I am going to have a lot of stuff written out, of course, for us, but it's definitely something you're going to want to follow along with if you don't already have it. You can go to our website under the live streams tab, and if you scroll down, you'll see the these packets, because I spent a lot more time on them than past packets. We were asking for the $5 for them, or if you want to do 15, you can. It's the same packet.
Yeah, and aloha everyone. And one of the big things I want to mention too is that there are still people that are hurting so much during this time, and for those of you who were able to donate more, for those people that couldn't do the $5 right now, thank you.
Yes.
So very much. And again, if you're watching this live, or if you're watching this archived, please, you can look for the packet at our live streams tab at craigandsarah.com. People, if you can't do the $5 right now, we got your back. And people have come out in spades to help you with that as well. So thank you guys so much for your support, helping spread the joy of the ukulele. It is, we're just so incredibly, again, we're so lucky to be a part of this amazing community, and we really do appreciate and love you guys so very much, so thank you for that. So again, today's game plan is we have a 10:30 Q&A / sound check / let's just chat, and then 11 o'clock we will be having Sarah do her big Chord Melody workshop, which a lot of people are excited about.
And there's one person that says that I sound a little low.
Oh, okay.
So we could always turn me up just a hair. Let's try that. See, does that help, Barbara? I hope so. Thank you for letting us know.
Yes, this is why we like having a little bit of time for sound checks and everything. And thank you guys for your help for always coming in early and checking this out. Nope. Oh, aloha. It's so great to see some of our artist work students as well. And Teko from all the way from Japan.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I see a woman named Helga. She said she ordered a packet and didn't get it. So send us an email right now. We will get you the packet to you right away. I have my phone open for that very reason, so I can quickly go in and send stuff. Craig can also send packets to folks as well. I did also send an email out to those who had ordered. I sent an email out to everybody as a just in case, because you do have 24 hours to download the packet, but after that, the download goes away. So I actually sent out another version of it just in case some folks hadn't opened up their packet in time.
Oh my gosh. I know Ashley Orlando has been doing a ton of awesome work online.
And Diane's here too.
And Diane Nalini, who's been doing every Saturday a live session.
And I think, Diane, I think you're teaching today after this too, I believe, because Diane teaches on Sundays also.
Oh my gosh, Eric from the UK. It's so great to see you guys.
Yay.
Now, from India, awesome. Very, very
cool. This is so cool.
Now, also, if you're watching, make sure in the chat box, it says top chat with a little arrow. Make sure to click that and go to live chat. That's the one that you want to use to really stay on top of everything going on. Oh my gosh, Alan. So this is how long my hair is now. It's crazy. So I think I cut it right before, what is our son's name?
Cameron. It's all good. And Helga, I think I found your email.
It's been a long week. But I think I cut it right before he was born, and it is just...
There we go.
It can be glorious, but it is so hard to manage right now that I get self-conscious. I just stick on the hat. I will get it cut soon.
So, Helga, I think I found your email, so I just sent you a packet right now. So check your email, see if you got it. Also, Patty and Mike Kramer, it's great to see you both. I'm really glad I was able to help you this morning with the PDF, Patty. So I'm glad it all worked out.
And
So.
Cameron will be making an appearance. He just went
Yes.
down for a nap, so you'll
Yes.
probably see him in about half an hour.
Yes. Yeah, he does tend to take
awesome.
short. He's a cat napper. Sometimes his last afternoon nap will be long, but usually I have to nap with him in order for it to be the long nap. Which I mean, I guess is okay. It means I get to have a nap too.
Now, during the next 25 minutes and 36 seconds, just to give you an update on what's going on, we've been listening to your feedback from our various live events and from the people who've been donating and have been requesting certain things.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things besides the Chord Melody workshop has been a theory workshop for the ukulele. So I will be tweaking my masterclass on theory for the ukulele that we should be ready for either late July or early August. It's going to be exciting. It's I usually call it my Craig's super non-intimidating, super easy, don't be afraid to take it theory on ukulele workshop.
Yeah.
So
And then as a follow-up, we'll probably end up doing my chord theory workshop, which segues great from Craig's, because I go into creating chords, and we'll even get into jazz chords and show you how all of those are made and how it applies to the uke.
oh Laura, I hope you guys are doing well in Florida. We that was one of our favorite festivals. I know you guys got hit hard. We have to catch up one of these days to see if there's anything we can do to help, because you guys were so amazing to work with, and we
Yes.
want to make sure to take care of your club.
Absolutely. And I've been there's some folks that have sent us notes about packets. Luckily, I've been able to.
Yeah, Sarah put in a lot of work for this packet. That was the only reason why we asked for that $5 donation for this one. Again, thank you guys so much for your support. I think
Yes.
she did an amazing job with it.
And today I'm going to be adding some. The game plan for the Chord Melody class is that you will be creating the arrangement. And yes, there is an arrangement at the end that's all tabbed out, but we are going to work together and do an arrangement. And I'm going to actually write things out with like lyric and chord. You'll see it's sort of the old-fashioned way that I used to write up chord melodies before doing music notation, because that's going to be easier for us to do online and for you to be able to see for those of you that don't have a packet. And
Oh my God, it's so great to see. I see a lot of new faces from our Artist Works school
Yes.
as well. And again, there's so many plans that we have for new material for Artist Works. We have new arrangements coming out. We have we have some very, very special guests that are going to be doing some guest workshops as well for you guys. Speaking of which,
and upcoming workshops, they're going to be on our YouTube live. That's what Craig was meaning. Though we will actually be doing some new lessons and stuff for Artist Works as well.
yeah, there's like dozens of hours of new material that we have in the plan for Artist Works to add to the curriculum. But on July 11th, we have a very, very special day celebrating Hawaiian music, Hawaiian musicians. We're going to be doing a deep dive with a lot of artists, as you can see here: Jake, Herb, Brian, Asa, Brittany, David, Halihaku, Kama, Hoku. We've been doing a bi-weekly panel discussion, and we've been talking about everything from what inspires us to things that we learned on the road. It's just been so incredible to share these stories with each other, and we usually have a very special guest on Thursdays, but I wanted to take the time to really highlight how amazing these panel members really are in their own right. So on July 11th, we're doing I think a 6-hour event. There'll be some workshops, there'll be some play-alongs, but a lot of exclusive interviews where I have so many great questions. I cannot wait to really sit down with a lot of these people.
It's going to be really, really awesome.
Yeah, because again, I always say it, but I can't thank you guys enough. Music is not the easiest thing to get into, and you know, as we'll talk about with the panel too. It's still very scary. You know, it's not stable at all, especially during a time like this. And uh, we all are so grateful for your support and believing in what we do and how we try to share and bring joy to people. So thank you guys so very, very much.
So a couple of questions came up. Somebody was
Oh,
asking what's
Andy.
in the packet. The packets contains rules. The rules we're going to follow about the chord melody, as well as a chord bank and the song that we're going to work with, just the melody only. And then at the end of the packet, we have the chorded melody written out, as well as a movable major chord sheet that's bonus at the very end. And also, I think it was Meggie who was asking about if I have low G, will you provide alternative voicings? Not necessarily written in the packet, but I will try to remember to say if you have low G, you can do, this instead. But this song I did actually do the arrangement for high G, and you'll see why when we get going on it.
Melanie Barry, it's so great to see you. If you guys have never been to Tunes in the Dunes, if you can secure a slot for next year as soon as it opens up,
Oh my
get a
gosh, go.
slot because it's very limited. I think James Hill is headlining next year. It's Tunes in the Dunes is one of our favorite events
Yeah.
that we've done on the Oregon coast. If you get a chance,
And Melanie's one of the nicest people
yeah.
you will ever get to hang out with.
Oh, Ruth, we just saw VE from you. We can't wait
Oh, yeah.
to
We need to
respond
answer you.
that. Yes, it's oh my gosh, it's so exciting to see you guys. So again, in 20 minutes we'll start. Now, one of the big things that we want to ask in the next 18 minutes 32 seconds, what other things are you hoping to learn from us down the road when we do these live streams? Because again, there is so much out there. There is so many things, and so many resources. There's so many great teachers. One of the things that we really want to do is make sure whenever we do these live streams, it's going to be our take on things. We're not trying to, say this is the only way to do things. We always try to give options, and that's one thing I love about our teaching is, there's no one right way to do anything, as you'll hear us repeat throughout our curriculum at Artist
Yes.
Works. Part of the musicianship is being able to be versatile, to be able to hold chords in 4 different ways, because in context, it will change
It
what's
will.
coming before and after. So, there's so many different ways of learning and progressing. And I know sometimes, I was the same way. We get so tunnel vision on certain elements, and then everything else kind of gets left behind. And one of the things that I keep wanting to push is any technique that you learn, whether it's from us or another teacher, always try to find ways to implement it right away. That's going to be the best way of really taking it in and having it stick. You not just to try it and get it till it sounds pretty good. You want to be able to use it, push it, use like hammer-ons in 10 different songs before you can finally get, okay, I got it. Now I can implement it whenever I want. We want to help connect those dots for you. So again, this was one of the biggest requests to teach. I have a theory on ukulele coming up, and if there's anything else in particular that you guys want to push, and for us, we do songs here and there, but to me, songs has never been the main goal for us, for me at least. It's always been about how to change a song that you can already play into a million different ways. That to me is more important than kind of
And making
learning
the
someone
song-
else's arrangement.
Yeah. And making it yours.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea is you want to tell the story from your eyes.
Barbara, the spider exercise. I love Aldrin for teaching me that. It's such a good exercise. Oh my gosh.
And hold on, there was somebody was asking, so how are these archived? They're when this is all said and done, like if you have to leave early or if you aren't able to make it and you wanted to watch this video later, it's just on our YouTube channel. It's available to the public. It'll be up for as long as we have a YouTube channel. And you should just be able to find it pretty easy. I also am going to be posting the most recent live streams on our website on the live stream tab so that you can easily find it there too if you don't want to have to go hunting through our whole channel. And then I do have, there's a PDF library of our free PDFs on our live stream page, as well as some of the paid ones like today. And hold on, I feel like there was one other question I missed.
There's a couple more for Sharon. What about tools to help us play without having
Yes, that was the one
the
I was
chords
looking
in
at.
front of us? Yes, that is a whole workshop in itself. We have so many tips on how to memorize. Actually, a lot of it you'll get in both from my intro theory class and Sarah's chord theory class, because a lot of times it's going to be almost the exact same pattern for a lot of different songs that you'll start to recognize these patterns, and we're going to teach you how to do that. And even if you transpose it into different keys, the patterns will still stay the same. So part of actually, we have some time. Part of that is, analyzing the structure of the song and having that down first, then worry about lyrics and phrasing and all that. You have to keep that kind of base structure first in order to then layer things on top, because if that's not set, there's no way it's gonna keep in time or in place. So little hints off the top of my head, a lot of the song sheets are horrible, right? They're just the lyrics with round measure. If there was a word that landed on it for the lyrics, I would circle that word with that chord, so I knew to aim that downbeat with that lyric. Certain things like that. There, you look at most musicians, kind of notes and everything on their sheet music. There's tons of scribbling. There's tons of little things like that to help you. Or we add notations to like add in how many hits or things like that, or diagrams of what particular voicing we want this transition to sound like. But don't be afraid to mark up your notes and give yourself hints, because that will help the memorization so much too.
And somebody asked if we teach baritone. We don't really teach baritone. However, we do know that we have some friends getting ready to start some things in the works.
It is funny that you mentioned that, because we are going to be co-producing a baritone thing with some special guests as well.
Yes. And yes, Frank, you are right. I love seeing so many people from our Berlin retreat that are joining us today. Nope. So, but hopefully we really want to get back. We were really hoping to come back to Berlin this year. Obviously, we are not able to, but who knows? Maybe we'll get to do it next year. I hope so. We have been in contact with Sabina, you guys. So hopefully we'll be able to make it back.
Bob and Linda from Bend, you need to email me back. I emailed you like 2 days ago. Oh my gosh, yes, our Berlin Ohana. I love it.
And do we teach bass? No, we do not teach bass. However, our bass player Milo does, and he actually taught a really great bass. It was for low G really, but he has taught some bass workshops with us. He does bass workshops on our cruises, as well as any retreats that he's with us at. Milo Fultz. You can check him out. Milo P. Fultz. I think, is it milopfultz.com or milofultz.com? I'm now not remember. I think it's milofultz.com. But check him out. He does teach ukulele bass as well as standard upright bass, and he's phenomenal.
Brian Lee Bowers here, dude. We haven't seen you in forever, and you're so awesome. I love when you guys do your duets and everything. It's so much fun. Yes, there are. Yes. So usually for that masterclass intro to theory that I do, I usually pair it with an intro to soloing class, because it goes hand in hand. That will take a little bit more effort to kind of get it set for something like this. Would you guys be okay with like a $5 donation thing for the theory / soloing masterclass? Because if that's really if you guys want to go in that direction, I can definitely connect the dots on that. I just need a little bit more time for that.
And also, somebody was asking about, where is that? Chord positions in Hawaiian music. You'll want to tune in July 11th.
Yes.
That's actually several of the workshops being taught are going to be your bass song. It'll go into the what the song means, pronunciation, the bass chords, as well as some alternative voicings that you can try out that you hear the pros use. So that's actually something. Tune in July 11th for that if you're interested in getting more in depth into Hawaiian music on the ukulele. Oh, wow. Everybody's saying yes. Okay. Thank you guys so
Awesome.
much. High G, low G is a common practice to change your low G string out. You know what? It's all... I say work with a high G for most of your learning, and then switch to low G later when you've learned to have a bit more control over the instrument. Low G has its place, but it's not the standard tuning. I play both. We have a uke that's high G, a uke that's low G, but it's really good to understand the original tuning and then switch over. I feel if you're wanting to do the switch, some people prefer low G because they like having that linear sound, but you do have to play the instrument a little bit differently in order for that low G string not to overtake everything and not be this like constant booming drone sound. So you just have to be a bit more nuanced of a player in order for the low G to sound just as beautiful as the high G, I think. But good question. Awesome. Yeah, and if Craig does the theory masterclass thing.
Well, and here's the deal. I mean, and thank you guys. A lot of people are saying $5 is too cheap. You know, one of the things that we are taking into consideration is, again, we are in such a weird time right now.
Yeah.
And I know for me, music has gotten, well, both of us out of some really kind of dark places.
Mm-hmm.
It helped us in so many ways. And I want to make sure, I want to make sure it is
that
accessible.
Everybody gets a chance. Yeah.
And you know, and what we could do to, if those with the means to help and donate more, just like for today, we'll give a couple options to help pay it forward. But you know, and it means the world to hear that. And I you know, it's such a weird time right now, and I want to make sure people do have access, and feel.
Well, part of the beautiful thing about the ukulele community is the inclusiveness, right? And so for us, we just want to make sure we can include everybody.
Yeah, but thank you, and for those of you who have been paying it forward for others too, and
Thank
for
you.
helping us out with the donations, thank you so much. And again, I'll you know, we will do our best to make sure, you know, we again, the ukulele, especially during this time, for so many people have been it's been such an incredible tool. So, okay, so let's see.
So Eric Kingdon's asking about, you know, the benefit of the Canadian tuning or tunings like Bebe, the one that James Hill uses. So the cool thing about having your uke tuned differently is you can get different ideas. I mean, we have our Barry tenor tuning, which is that DGBE but with a high D on top. I've seen people tune their instruments to open G tuning, open C tuning. When I mean by open C is not C6, just like triad C tuning. You can do different things on instruments that are tuned differently, and it can inspire you, or it can make creating certain voicings easier. And getting into doing different tunings of the instrument is something that a lot of musicians kind of go into later. I actually like tuning down to B flat 6 tuning. It sounds really beautiful. The first time I did that was actually because I was trying to copy a James Taylor song, and I noticed that because of the specific key it was in, if I just tuned down a whole step, I could use my C shapes and be able to play along with the recording really easily. So that's another reason that you might want to, you know, use a different tuning, is it could help you play along with an album, or give you the option to be able to sound like the record without having to do too much thinking.
Okay, 5 minutes, 15 seconds left. Any other things that we can look at for future possible themes or topics?
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely need to make a Team Hygie shirt.
And also, for those of you that have donated to us in the past using our donations button on our website, we do have a thing where you can actually type in suggestions. Many of you have, and I actually have a spreadsheet with suggestions on it. So thank you guys for contributing that way too, if even if you're not in the live chat right now, making
Now,
suggestions.
do we want to mention our big news, or do we want to save it?
That's up to you, Craig. Yes.
Okay, so this is happening really fast, but I'm not going to go into details because I'm saving that for a future announcement. But an opportunity popped up. Oh, this is so hard. So for those of you who don't know, I grew up on Oahu, went to college in Eugene, Oregon. Got really involved with the community up there. Really came into my own as a musician with the incredible live music scene and incredible ukulele scene in Eugene. And I met Sarah on the ukulele circuit, so to speak. And I lost Eugene versus San Diego. So we've been in San Diego for 6 years.
Yes, I think it has been 6 years.
And it's been incredible. There's such an amazing. There's been such an amazing support and community here, and especially with Holly Ukulele, the incredible ukulele store here in San Diego. So an opportunity popped up, and it looks like we will be moving to Oahu later this year.
Yes.
And I will kind of go into details on that later on, but we were very excited. We are incredibly sad to be leaving so many of our friends here in San Diego and on the West Coast. But unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 and everything, we were hoping to do like a big concert and workshop and get together before we left, but that's not going to be in anyone's best interest at all. So that just means we have to be back. And
well, the thing is, but just because we're moving to Hawaii does not mean that we're not going to come back to the mainland and tour and do things like that. So it's not like we're gone forever, but it is one of those things where especially to be able to surround Cameron with family and to be able to because with Artist Works we can work from anywhere. It made a lot of sense for us to go ahead and take this step and go ahead and move to Oahu. And start raising our son there. And the great thing about that is I have family in Atlanta, Georgia. There's a direct flight from Honolulu to Atlanta, so we can visit his other grandparents very easily. And so it's an exciting opportunity. We are very excited, and it's going to make our trips and tours even more special. We were hoping to do a tour of California this year. Obviously, that's not going to happen, and we don't know when it can happen. But as soon as things are able to, you can bet that we will be up and touring again as soon as we can.
Yes, and so there is a rumor that our sold out San Diego event that we had to cancel our retreat this year might take place on Oahu.
Yes.
So I mean, but there's been so many positives. There like to be surrounded and kind of getting back to our roots, or
I'll be right back.
Of the ukulele, being able to work hand in hand with some amazing artists and people in the industry. We're looking at this as an opportunity to be better musicians, to be better supporters of the instrument. So there are some really big plans in the works that I cannot wait to talk more of. But I'm gonna, we are so incredibly humbled and grateful for all the support here in San Diego, especially Rick and Monica from Hale Ukulele. And yeah, if you guys, once they open up again, if you guys could support them in any way possible, if you're down here, please do, because they've definitely been hurting a lot throughout this. But thank you for all the well wishes. I'm so excited. We're gonna definitely share more about all that entails very, very soon. But I just want to give you guys a heads up, so that it doesn't come out of nowhere later when you start seeing like boxes being packed in the background and whatnot. But we're excited. We're really, really excited. Yeah, and to have Cameron grow up with family in Hawaii too is going to be amazing. So yes. Oh. All right. Oh, hello, baby. Mwah. He just woke up from his little nap, and I know we're supposed to start in a few minutes for Sarah's workshop. Ugh. Oh, Sarah's hair is all over you. Okay. All right. Let's see.
Oh, yeah. Hi,
Actually, do you want to try and make him laugh real quick, and then I'll feed him in the... You know, try.
I don't know. Come here, Baba.
Make him dance a little bit.
Come here, Baba. You're so cute. Look at your cute little face. Whoa. Oh my goodness. Say hi, Cameron. Say hi, aunties. Hi, uncles. He's decided he enjoys bouncing. That's his new thing. So he's doing really, really well, I think.
Yeah, and it looks like we will aim to be leaving about mid-September. We will also probably have a big going away sale to offload a lot of physical merch that we still have left.
Ho, ho, ho. That's him, not me. Let's see if I can make him laugh. Okay, hold on. See if we can get some baby laughs. I'll do my best. I know you tuned in for a workshop. So hold on. Maybe not. Maybe not today, huh? No giggles today for mommy? That's okay. Oh, hi. Nope, not today.
Oh, for
That's
the
okay.
John C. Campbell class.
That is, they've canceled all of their classes. We got an email from the school actually yesterday or the day before. All of the fall classes and everything are canceled.
Yeah, so we will be back there.
We're hoping next year.
Yeah.
And it would be in the fall again if we were. Similar time frame, but.
Okay.
Yes.
So
I know. Yes, the Weechi is not nearly as wee as he used to be. Hi, baby. Hi. How are you? Yes. Yes. You are so. Yes, he's pretty darn cute. That's one thing that we feel really, really, really fortunate is that we've been able to spend all of this great time with him. It's been pretty amazing. So, and he's in a good mood. He could probably stay out.
Okay, and I'll feed him while you get started.
Okay.
Let me switch things to the iPad. But again, I'm gonna be leaving this air for just a little bit while I feed him. And it's funny. We had some people like, "Oh, you should just get a babysitter." I'm like, we can't really. It's not really possible. So we're doing our best, and thank you guys for always being so patient with us as well during these live streams. It all kind of depends on how he's doing.
And he's actually a pretty good kid, I gotta say. We've thus far we have lucked out. So, and yes, this is being taped, so you can watch it later. So if something happens and you need to dig out early, it's totally okay.
All right. So, and again, July 11th, I'll talk about this a little bit more later on, but definitely keep that date open.
Yes.
You'll want to be there live because most of these things are going to be I'll get into it later. It's gonna be fun. All right,
It's
so
gonna be great.
let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Ta-da! So those of you that were like, what's in the packet? Well, we are going to have the packet on screen with me today. So I've got that. And also, if you're watching this recorded, you can always pick up a packet. Also, if you are watching this live and you want to buy a packet now, you can, or you can get it later. It's totally up to you. So, yes.
And
I'm
if
so
you
glad
need
everyone's...
to pinch to zoom for certain
Yeah,
elements.
I
you
will.
Can, yeah.
That was my plan. Okay. Let's see. I love everybody. Everybody's so happy about getting to see Cameron. Yes. So, all right. Chord melody. What is it? So, basically, it kind of is self-explanatory in that you play the chords and the melody at the same time. And the big sort of rules that I have are written on our page, and so I sort of said concepts to keep in mind. The first one is your melody is the most important note. So if in your music, if an F chord is listed and the melody note happens to be a C note found on your A string, that C note on the A string is super important. You must put that note in the chord. Now, in this case, it doesn't change the name of the chord because that's actually still an F chord, because an F chord consists of an F, an A, and a C. And when you add that pinky to the third fret of your A string, it's just adding a second C in it. Whereas before, this first position F chord, this chord here has two A's in it. This chord here has two C's. So that's just something to keep in mind. There we go. When you are doing that. Sometimes it will change the technical name of the chord when you add the melody note. But as long as you have the base of the chord, which would be, in this case, F, and you add whatever note it is, you are golden. Somebody just mentioned that the audio is out of sync. Is anybody else having a sync issue? Please let me know. In there. And also, if you are having a sync issue, refresh your web browser, because sometimes that will solve that issue. Okay, so that's sort of our rule/concept number one. The next one is your melody note should be the highest note within your chord. Now, if for some reason the melody note happens to land on your E string, for example, which is the example I've cited here, you have a couple of different options. One of them is that you can just strum 3 strings, or you can pick the 2 middle ones. Okay, good. I'm glad. So the person who's having a sync issue, just refresh your browser, because it looks like things are looking okay for most folks, which is great. Okay, so if I have a B flat chord, my melody note's on the E string, I'm going to either strum 3 strings or just pick the 2 middle strings. The main thing is that note that is on my E string, which in this case is an F note, make sure that note is the highest note in your chord. That way, because if I were to do, and I'll do this so you can hear it actually. Oh good, refreshing worked. Woohoo! Okay, so if I have my B flat chord and I were to strum 3 strings, that's the last note you hear. Even though the G string is a high note, because this is the last note that you hear in my strum, you're going to hear that as melody. But if I did this, you might miss that the melody was actually this E note, or not E note, this F note that's on my E string. Hopefully that makes sense. So, there is that. And yes, if you play low G, you can strum all 3 strings. It'll sound just fine, because that low G is a lower note than the rest versus the high G that I have. So does that, so we have melody is always the king, is what I like to say. And then the second concept of if your melody note happens in the middle, then only strum to the melody note. Don't strum all the way through your chord. Okay. Next, if you have a high G, sometimes your melody note can be on the G string, and that's really handy. So all you have to do is strum up to get your melody note if it's already in your chord. My example I'm citing is I have a C7 chord listed, and I have a G note as my melody note. So if I do that, I can very easily just go and then make sure I really clip the G string as I move up. And you'll hear that this, because it was the last note played and is being kind of perceived as the highest note in the chord, that my melody is here. Now, if you have a low G and I wanted to have that same G note, what I would do is add it to the 3rd fret of my E string and just strum down. I don't think it sounds as good because you're missing this awesome note here in your C7. So there's that to keep in mind for those of you that play high G, that your melody sometimes is on the G string. How many of you have ever seen Benny Chong play? If you haven't seen Benny play, I would recommend after this live stream going on the YouTube rabbit hole and looking up his name, Bennychong. You'll see that a lot of times he does a lot of beautiful jazz chord melody, and when you watch him play, he does a lot of down and up strumming because he is playing some of his melody notes on the G string. And that's part of how he can get some of the speed that he has. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out because a lot of times we forget that that high G string can actually be used for our melody too. Awesome. Let's keep going. So the next one is, if you can't reach the melody note in your first position, you may have to move up to a different position. Oh, somebody's asking, do you want the melody note to be the last note? Preferably yes, because your ear is going to perceive that as melody. The next question I see is, if you have a low G, can you use the barred C7? You can, because that will have that B flat note in it because it's now on that string. And you just would be doing that instead. So instead of this C7 doing this, you can do this one. And that sounds a little bit better. And good. I got those questions. Excellent. All right. So what I was saying before was, if you have a melody note that, let's say, is a little higher than you can reach in first position, you may want to try a different position. That's when knowing your other chord shapes is going to be handy, or having a chord book or a chord app. Craig and I mentioned this in another live stream, but the chord book that Craig and I really like to use is called A Treasury of Ukulele Chords by Roy Sakuma. You can actually order it direct from Roy, I believe. Oh, and preferably, please order it direct from Roy Sakuma. I think Amazon overprices it too. So, but just so you know, if you are old-fashioned like us and you like to use a book instead of an app, A Treasury of Ukulele Chords by Roy Sakuma is our favorite chord book. All right. And what is a jazz chord? Okay, I'm going to be very brief on that question because basically I look at jazz chords as any chords that are more than your typical triad. Usually when you see a chord that has 4 notes or more, like a minor 7 chord, minor 7 flat 5, or a C9 chord, those are a lot of times referred to as jazz chords. They're a little bit more complex, and you find them a lot in jazz standards. That's my very fast answer of what is a jazz chord. So, oh good, some people have already bought the book and they say it's excellent. Fantastic. So, going to my example, in the worksheet, you'll see, there we go, that I'm holding an F chord, but my melody note is a D chord. If I wanted to, I could stretch all the way up to the D note here in my first position. It's not the most comfortable thing, and this voicing does sound really pretty for me to be able to reach this note, but I could also go to the next position of F, which is one that most people don't like, which is the 5-5-5-3 one. There we go. but I still need that D note. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this finger, lift them up. I need this note here, so then I'm just going to bar, because then I've got the note right there. So Frederico, I will answer your question in just a second. So I have two options if I wanted to. If my melody note was this note and I had an F chord, I could do this, or I could do this. Both of those are totally right. So the question that Frederico had about B flat example, I don't understand the second one. Why should I play the G string if the melody note needs to be higher? So because you are just going through it quickly, there we go. You don't really notice the G string at all. But that's also why I gave the example of you could just pluck the two middles. And if you have a low G string, then just strumming into here, this is definitely the highest note in your chord. But because it's the last note played in your chord, it's going to be a bit louder than the rest. So it'll be able to be perceived as melody, which is pretty great. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, so let me zoom this back out. All right, another one, chord substitutions. Sometimes chord substitutions are easier to play than the chord listed, which is why you might choose that instead. So for example, zoom in, here we go. For example, I have a B flat chord listed, and the melody note I need in that first example is the B flat note. So that's really easy to just do this, right? But let's say you have trouble playing B flat, or you're playing quickly and getting to this B flat takes you a little bit longer. You could play a B flat major 6 instead, which is just removing a finger from the equation, which is open 2 1 1, and you get the same job done essentially. So sometimes using that fancy B flat 6 chord is actually easier than playing a standard B flat. I also cite another example next to it, which is, let's say I'm playing B flat in, the next position over, and I need this D note as my melody note, which actually will be in the song. So you could use the second position B flat, which bars the 5th fret and should remind you of an F chord, actually, right? But let's say barring is difficult for you, or it's just hard to get to this particular shape in time. Well, especially for high G on this particular version of it, you could play a version of a B flat major 6 chord, which has an open G string in it. And what I have here is it's open 5, 6, and 5. You can use that instead if that's easier for you to get to then. If you play low G, this voicing with the open G string might sound a little funny. What I would say is try to tread lightly on the G and aim for your strum to begin on the C, so you just graze that G string, or play the bar. So I am using standard notation to determine melody. Are you using standard notation to determine melody notes? I am, yes, and I have the notation. We're going to go through it in the packet. Sometimes you don't always have that luxury of having the sheet music. But I always try to start from sheet music if I can. If I don't, I use my ear and I try to sort of write it out for myself, and then I will go through and create chord melodies that way. So B flat major 6 equals G minor 7. How do we choose the name of the chord? Oh, that's a can of worms. So I want you to think about the relationship that B flat has to G minor. Does anyone happen to know the relationship that G minor has to B flat? I'm going to wait for just a second, see if anybody says it in the chat. But on the ukulele, in your journey, you will discover many chords that look alike and have different names. It has to do with the context of the chord, what key it's in, and what chord comes before and after it that's going to tell you what the real name of the chord is. Because the uke only has 4 strings, we are limited in the different ways that we can voice things. So especially when you get into the more sort of jazzy chords, you're going to have to be very choosy about what you're going to do. So yes, people are saying, haha, relative minor. G minor is the relative minor of B flat major scale. The G minor scale, which is the relative minor of B flat, uses the exact same notes as your B flat major scale, but you start on a G note instead. So that's just something to keep in mind. A lot of times when you have chords that look alike, it's usually because they are related in some form or fashion. This particular relationship happens to be that it's the relative minor. So, and the only reason that you would know one over the other is because of the key that you're in and the context of the chord. Your bass player has a lot to do with why the chord, or has a lot to do with making your chord sound happy versus sad. And so I see that Craig has actually gotten a bass prepared so that he can actually kind of show us. So we can hold our B flat major 6 chord. First position sounds great to me. So what I'm gonna do, and hopefully you can hear, because he's playing acoustically. So if I just did the B flat.
Well, B flat.
Yeah, B flat.
Okay.
So that sounds pretty happy. All right, can you make that a G minor? Sounds so sad. I didn't change, but it sounded sad. Major? Happy again. And let's make it sad. Awesome. Thanks, Craig. So hopefully you could hear that the bass player, you want to be really nice to your bass player. Buy them lots of candy and goodies because they're the ones that are really going to make your instrument have the chords they can make or break your song, basically. So be nice to your bass player. But that is something that's really it's an excellent question. Thank you for asking that about G minor 7 versus B flat major 6. Can you recommend a theory book for us non-music majors? I hate to say it, but I actually cannot, because I haven't done enough research to be able to recommend a book. I'm sorry. But I will try to do some research and let you know. I ended up doing private theory lessons and stuff with a bass player and guitarist over the years in order to be able to get the knowledge that I have. I know that people are mentioning too that Matt Stead has been doing some theory workshops, which is great. Craig and I also teach theory too. So, all right. But that is my major 6. So that was the reason why we were talking about major 6 chords, is that sometimes getting to them is easier than playing the plain Jane chord itself. So I've written in the notes that, for substitutions, you could always try for a major chord, try a major 6 chord. It usually will sound lovely. You could try a major 7. It doesn't always sound as good because there's a bit of a grind in that chord, but it is an option. If you've got minor chords, try a minor 7 chord instead. Sometimes that's easier. And then sometimes try a minor 6, but that one's a little bit more crunchy. You can also do, instead of a dominant 7, like C7, you could try playing a C9 chord instead. Sometimes that's easier. And generally speaking, I cited G7 is now G9 in my notes. So that's just something to, Phil Dolman has a book. Awesome. Phil Dolman's an excellent teacher, by the way.
Great, yes.
Yeah, so yes, if he has got a theory book out, I would definitely check that one out. He's excellent. So that is my little spiel on substitution chords. Sometimes using a substitution can get you to your melody note more easily than using the standard chord that's written there. Okay, so there we go. Remember to practice transitions in small pieces. That's my next piece of advice for us. because a lot of times people will say, well, I want to learn this song, and they practice the whole song in this one large chunk. And then if you mess up, you have to start over all the way from the beginning again in order to be able to make it through the song. So if you practice it in small chunks, you can actually pick up in places where you might have accidentally messed up much more easily. Also, in practicing in small chunks, you're going to find that you are going to be able to make parts of the song a lot smoother, and you'll end up just generally getting along easier in the song much faster, I think, by working on it in small bits. So what I want us to do right now is actually we're going to practice this transition. The first transition we're going to practice, I'm calling it Gee Whiz because that's the lyrics that are happening under it. Okay, I'm just going to look at some people's questions before we get started. Okay, Peter asked, the substitution was for B flat. What about other chords? So what I mentioned was for the other chords, if you have a major chord, whether it's a B flat, a C, a D, a G, you can play the major 6 counterpart sometimes, or a major 7 sometimes. If you have a minor chord like F minor, you could play F minor 7, maybe F minor 6. It's tricky. If you have a G7 chord, you could play G9. That's for the dominant 7 one. So that's written underneath my B flat example. And then, do I understand the chord options right when I read this? F major in the first position is 2 open, 1 open, and the third position is 5 5 5 3. You are correct. You are reading that correctly. So,
Wait, say that again?
F major 7 is 2 open, 1 open, and then the next position it's 5 5 5 3. So, U-bass classes, maybe we'll have Milo before we move. Maybe we can somehow get Milo to do a U-bass class. We'll see. Even after we move, we could probably have him do one. Okay, so Gee Whiz. You'll notice that on the sheet, let me zoom in a little bit here. You'll notice that I've got X's written across the diagram. There's the number 7 and some X's. What that means is we are just going to pluck the 7th fret. Okay, not too bad. Then we're going to slide this pinky down, or you could use your ring. Either one's fine. You're going to literally slide down to the 3rd fret and add your index to the 2nd fret of the G string. And I only want us to practice that one small transition. And I'm recommending that you do not lift your finger at all. You want to slide down and then go to that chord. So let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 4, G, slide, whiz. And we'll do it again. 1, 2, reset. Here we go. Pick, slide, down. We'll do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, pick, slide, down. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. We spent some time practicing that transition. It wasn't that terrible. Let's look at the next transition. The next transition, Dreamin' My Life. So I'm going to be playing a G7 chord is technically what's there, even though I didn't tell you that's what it was. So we've got open 5 3 5. So it looks like this, like that. Open 5 3 5. And for the lyrics, we're saying dreamin' my life. Not too bad. So 1 2 3 4. Then we're going to take this shape and literally move it all down to make a regular G7, but this finger we don't want to bring down all the way. I'm going to stick him back up to the 3rd fret. There. So I'm now holding, this is a G7 suspended for those of you that just want to know the name of the chord. So I'm doing Dreamin' My Life. Notice how I didn't pick up my fingers. So I want you to just go from here, slide down, and try to keep this finger sticking out. If something happens and you slide it all down and then stick it up, that's okay at first. Eventually you'll want it to be one fluid motion, like that. So let's try Dreamin' My Life. And then let's actually, away. Let's do the whole thing. So after we have Dreamin' My Life, sorry, Dreamin' My Life. all you're doing is just moving that finger down and then going to C. Okay? Together, let's try it out. By the way, this song we were working on, if you do not have the packet and didn't see, we were working on All I Have to Do Is Dream by the Everly Brothers. Okay, so Dream in My Life. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dream in my life away. 2, 3. Let's try it again. Let's do it a little slower. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dream in my life away. 2, 3. Again. Dream in my life away. 2, 3. One last time. Dream in my life away. Yeah.
You okay, buddy?
Uh-oh. Pat his back, baby. Yeah. So, now that we've done the line in parts, let's try to actually do the whole line, starting with gee whiz. Gee whiz, I'm dreaming my life away. Now, whiz and I'm are the same chord. I didn't have a strum that when we did our transition practice. But let's see how we do. So I'm going to count in 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then gee whiz, I'm. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Gee whiz, I'm dreaming my life away. Try one more time. Now, before we actually try one more time, going from here, if I'm using my ring finger to go up to the G7 and the 3rd fret, this finger is my anchor finger, my ring, and it's going to go from this chord. I'm going to slide that finger up and then put these 2 fingers down for my G7. Okay, let's try again from that 7th fret pick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Gee whiz, I'm dreaming my life away. There we go. And then continuing. What is your thumb doing as you slide down? You mean this thumb over here? He's actually just following my neck. So you'll notice whenever I'm playing a note that I have the neck resting on my index and my thumb is just very gently here. Sorry, that was my nail that hit the string. So I've always got my neck supported so that it's not flopping around as I move around on my fretboard. If you keep your thumb in the back while you're trying to do stuff here, you're going to find that the neck isn't very stable and that you feel like you have to use a strap when you play. But if you have a nice secure hold like this, where you're coming in sort of at what Craig and I call violin fingers for your chords, it's going to work a lot better for you. Now, it is different with bar chords, but that's a whole other lesson. Somebody's asking, what are the names of these chords? We'll find out on the next coming pages because I just wanted to pull up this. But basically, the gee whiz, it's an A minor happening during that time frame. Dream in My Life, those are all different G7 variations. And then away, the way is a C chord. All right. How do you make your sliding notes sound so clear? For me, it's about keeping continual pressure as I move. So, like that. So you'll notice I don't pick up at all. And also I don't let my finger, I don't press too hard either. You have to have sort of it's like a just light enough touch. Because if you press too hard, you're going to get that more jerky sound versus a more gradual sound. One thing you can do to practice is with each finger, because eventually you'll slide with all of them on your A string. Start on the 7th fret, try with your pinky, your ring, your middle, and your index. You'll find that you might get better sounds out of one finger over the other because you've practiced it more with one versus the other. And when you do this, I would recommend actually practicing your hold as you're going through these, because that will also ensure, because the other thing too is with this hold, I'm not death gripping it. It has to be feather light in order to be able to move smoothly down the neck.
Can I make one little quick
Sure.
thing? So one little tidbit on that section as well. Using your ring finger for that 7th note. And for those of you who can make that stretch easy, I would actually recommend the middle finger for that G string, because these two guys are almost in that same position when you slide up for that high G7 here.
Ta-da!
So part of it is kind of getting that finger into place already, because that's a much smaller jump than going from here and then he having to do that bigger flip. So from here, oops. And what Sarah said was spot on about, you know, the slide to me is one of the most overlooked techniques. And there's so many times where it can either get caught on the fret or you lose that slide sound. And part of it is just, again, like everything else that we keep talking about, is finding that nuanced pressure of, because you will get completely different sounds and tones depending on how hard or soft you're holding that slide. Because sometimes you want to fade out right before you get to that note, or do you want to keep it ringing, or do you want to cut that off on this slide? So I mean, there's so many nuanced things, but part of it, just like as we talked about dynamics the last live stream, it goes hand in hand on how you want that slide to sound, because there's a million different ways you could do that and have that variation. So part of it is just trying that slide over and over, but purposely trying to get different sounds from it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Craig. That also goes into the thing that we mentioned earlier about you should be versatile in how you play your chords. Just because you learn C with one finger doesn't mean that you can't use all of the rest of them either. And it's all about being efficient and using what will help you get the job done the most efficiently. So awesome. Thanks for that, Craig. So other things that I've written as well are, remember, like with any song, you're telling a story. So as you create a chord melody, you want to make sure that you are giving the song dynamics. And that's something, because just like whenever you're physically telling someone a story, you don't speak monotone, and your music shouldn't be monotone either. You should be able to have peaks and valleys in order to bring your audiences in, and in order to make them go, oh. You know, you want to be able to create a story and tell it how you're wanting to express it using music. Now, granted, in order to be able to add dynamics to a piece, you're going to want to be very, very familiar with it in order to have the most success, which goes back to the step before it, which is the practice things in small bite-sized parts and then put them together. Should you play the downs with the thumb or the first finger?
Is that Carl?
That is Carl from South Africa.
My gosh.
Hi, Carl.
Amazing.
So honestly, you can strum it however you would like. I'm not using my thumb much today because I actually broke my thumbnail. So I'm having to improvise, and I tend to strum a lot with these two fingers. And I use my middle a lot because I actually am very arthritic in my index. So sometimes you'll see videos of me playing where I do a lot of picking with my middle or strumming with my middle, and that's why I actually have some issues with my index finger. So for me, it's a whatever gets the job done and gives you the tone and the sound you're looking for. That's what's going to be most important.
And then really, really quick, for me, for my style of playing, I can't, to me, the thumb coming down can be so much more nuanced than my index finger coming down. I just feel like I have a little bit more control, and it's the tone that I'm getting with a half flesh, half nail, compared to mostly nail with that index. Now, and as a really quick little thing to try, a lot of times when we're doing like something that we want to ring out, like one of the things that, to play mind tricks with yourself a little bit, try and do it straight down with your thumb. Just let drag across those strings. Now you see how everything is kind of flat, you know, everything is even. Now I want you to kind of do a scallop in the sense where we're going to start here, And as we come down, we're gonna come down toward the sound hole and then back up. So it's gonna look like this motion. And what that's gonna do, it's gonna change that ending part of that phrase, as well as really muck with a little bit of that timing, but that tone all of a sudden completely changes. And all we're doing is adding a variation in that simple downstroke with that scallop. And all of a sudden it can sound completely different just from something small just like that. So again, there's so many little things we can dive into, but I'll stop interrupting. I'm sorry.
It's not a problem. You can totally, that's all valid stuff. And somebody had said, well, what about upstrums? Similar idea to the upstrums, what Craig's talking about, where you want to make sure that when you come up, that you're really clipping that string. And we're actually going to have a couple of instances where we are going to use upstrums in the song that we're working on today. Yeah. So, all right. The rhythm of the song is the pulse. That's my other little note. Remember, the rhythm of the song is the pulse. You have a pulse. If your pulse were to stop, you would no longer exist. So if the pulse of the song stops, the song no longer exists. So as you are practicing and playing, even if you play a wrong chord, keep the pulse going. The pulse will be more important than the chord that you flubbed. Because that is what is going, people will just go, oh, that was different. But if you stop playing in the middle of a song, they will notice, versus if you just accidentally play a wrong note. And that's just something to keep in mind, not necessarily for chord melody, but just something that I wanted to just mention. So, and I'm glad that folks are liking the little tricks. That's fantastic. Okay, so I have on our sheet my sort of chord options, where I have, different versions of F, different versions of D minor, G minor, C7s, B flats, etc. That's sort of our chord bank that we're going to pull from. You'll notice that I did choose a song where most of the chords are going to be in first position. Woo woo! So I think that you'll be pleased with it. Now, the thing I want you to keep in mind as we get into the song, this class is not about getting you to be able to play this song right away. The idea behind this is getting you to think about how you would arrange the song and getting you to be able to create your own chord melodies. I am actually not necessarily teaching you how to play the chord melody of this song. We are going to arrange this song, okay? So let me put my uke down for just a second. So have your chord bank handy, but I'm gonna flip. Oh, I forgot to give myself the PDF of the actual notation. Let me actually pull it up for myself real quick. Over here. This will just give me 2 seconds, because as long as you guys have it, that's really the important thing. So let me just pull up my packet for myself, because I've got it. I love technology. The fact that you can so easily just throw songs up. So it's page 4 of the packet. You'll see that I've got I'm going to use books. There we go. You'll see that I've got only the melody listed, right, in our music notation. So let me actually do this here. I think I'm going to double check. Yeah, that's a little big. There we go. That should work. Okay. So looking at our music notation on page 4, all I have to do is dream. You'll see that I've got the music notation and tablature written underneath. Next to me, we have a bunch of empty chord charts, because I'm actually going to write sort of an old-fashioned way that I used to write out my chord melodies on the live stream, just because it's easier to play than filling out the tablature. Because the tablature, I'm worried, is just going to look a little too small on next to me on screen. So the very first note of the song is a pickup, meaning that it doesn't actually have its own full measure, and it is the first fret of your A string. It's a B flat note, and we're just going to pick that single note. So what I'm going to do with this is actually, let's use black real quick and do, I'll write this real fast. When I need you in my arms. So this is how I used to write out chord melody before I started using fancy notation, and I found it was super helpful, especially when I wasn't really comfortable sight reading music on the uke yet. So I'm going to ask questions. Hopefully you guys will answer. So I need just that one note, so I'm just going to do this, except that was huge. There we go. I'm just going to do X, X, X. Okay. And then the word I, what chord is listed? The F chord. And the melody note that's listed is what? It's an open A note. So all we're going to need to do is look at your chord bank. Is there an F chord that has an open A in it? Why, yes, there is. It's that just first position F chord. So all we're going to do for that word is do that. When I, and then want, or I wrote need, but that's all right. When I want you, so the word want is still the F chord. And so we're just going to do that again because it's the same open A note. Now we need, you'll notice over the word you that it is a D minor chord. So we need a D minor chord that has an open A in it. So looking at your chord bank, you'll see that that's the first position D minor. Very easy. All you have to do is add a finger to the party. So here we go. Boop. Done. When I need you. Measure 1 is done. All right. Measure 2. What chord is listed? It's a G minor. And the first note that is played is a B flat. It's on the first fret of your A string. And let's find a G minor that has hopefully that note in it. It happens to be the first position one. How convenient. So I'll write that chord here. So there's that. And then in my, it's the same thing here. In my. There we go. Now the word arms, the chord changes. All right. What chord is listed? C7. What melody note is listed though? It's a C note. And I have it being the 3rd fret of your A string. So you actually have 2 options here. The first option is we could conceivably, you have your C7 in first position. I could just add the melody note. That works just fine. And then the next note after that for the word and is a B flat note. So it would be, and then I'd eventually get to that note and that full chord. But yes, I could actually play, you'll say, but that's C, not C7. Yeah, but what was that very first rule I said? Melody is king. If you yes, hold whatever chord's listed and you add that note to it. It doesn't matter. The melody is the most important note. Another option is if you look at your chord bank and you look at the second position, C7, it has that note in it. So I'm holding 3, 4, 3, 3, and there's that note. If I wanted to use that one instead. For the ease of just keeping this simple, I'm going to write the C, I'm going to write this one down. But in your arrangement, you could play this barred C7 instead if you wanted. Always remembering there's more than one way you can do something. So I'm just going to write this one here, like that. And then, and I want you. So let me change this real quick. And I want you. Let me double check. I want you and all your charms. And all your charms. Okay. Go back to here. Okay. So we've got that. I want to get to, so we're at measure 3. Does measure 3 look familiar to you? Like perhaps it looks like another measure that we've already done. Yes. So the F chord is listed. There's an open A there. We're just going to play the full F chord because that melody note already exists in the chord. So we have an F, want, like that. And then for the word you, D minor is listed. Open A is in the chord. Open A is the melody note. So we're just going to add the D minor there. And all your charms. This one should actually look really familiar to measure 2. Measure 4 and measure 2 look almost the same. There's just an extra syllable happening. That's it. So the melody note is the B flat note and a G minor chord is listed. So we will do boop, boop, boop. There's your G minor and all same with that one. And your, when we get to the word charms, that C7 is listed again. Well, that's not too bad. You can do what we just did there and just play that note. So here's what I want us to do right now. I know that the word win is coming, but I'm going to stop there because I want us to actually try this and see how it sounds, see what we think. So what do you do with the second beat of D minor? What do you do with the second beat of D minor? You strum and let the chord ring for 2 beats. That's what we're going to do right now. There are other things you can do, but for right now, we're keeping everything super, super simple because we just want to get the bass arrangement down. Okay. I'm just double checking, making sure I didn't miss any big. Can you share blank frets? Where can I get the blank chord sheets? You know what? What I might do, for those of you that ordered a packet, I will go ahead, I will send you a tidied up version of what I'm doing here that will also have blank packets. Does that sound okay?
Or blank frets.
Right, and so it'll have what I've done here, except not quite as scary looking. And then it'll also have blank frets so that then you could do this on your own. I love being able to write things out this way because you see the word and what chords happening with the word. It's really handy for those that are that if you already know the song. Okay, so here we go. Let's start and take a look at this music. I'm gonna do that so it's a little bit more like that. Okay, when I need you in my arms. Here we go. Nice and slow. Remember that first note is just picking. And use whatever fingers you need to get the job done. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, when, and we'll start in 1, 2, 3. When I need D minor, you for rest in my arms. When I want D minor, you for rest and all your charms. This is actually the next note, but I don't have it written down. Now, did anybody catch a really cool trick that I did that helped make some of my transitions smoother? So, when I'm going from G minor to that, what looks like C, I left my index there because I know I'm going back to that note. So, when I'm doing in my arms, it's already there. There was no reason to move it. So remember too, when you're creating arrangements or even just working on songs where you're just strumming chords, think about what you don't need to move. You want to be the most efficient player possible. Yeah. So let's go through and do this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. When I need D minor, you, and we rest G minor in my arms. When F, want you for rest and all your charms. And then we'll do the C7 there. So let's continue on. Not too bad, right? We've got our melody notes happening. We have the chords happening at the same time. Everything is sounding really nice and full. And also I was going to say, if your internet froze, try refreshing. But if it's frozen, you probably can't see me telling you that. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I am on measure 4. I'm going to do the word win, which is that C7. Go. Win. All right. Whenever I want you, all I have to do is, and then we're going to get to dream, but I'll get to that in a second. Okay. All right. Let's look at measure 5. Measure 5, what chord is listed? It's an F chord. What's the melody note listed? Why, it's that good old A chord. Fantastic. So all I have to do is play F. So we're going to just do the F chord. When Ev, and then the word Ev and and I, ever I, those are all F chords. Yay! And it's all open A string. So we're just going to hold that F, ever I. Hold that F chord the whole time. Now, you can strum that the whole time, and that's what I'm doing just to keep things simple. We can talk about, picking versus strumming a little bit later, but for right now, I am just down strumming everything so that I can just get through the song and try to play a chord as for every single word possible, and mainly as a teaching tool. I might not necessarily play the song that way if I was performing it. Okay, so whenever I, and then the word want, D minor, 5th fret. The note I need is a D on that A string. What are we going to do? You have 2 options. First option is you can hold your first position D minor and stretch to that note way up there. That's actually what I have written in the music, in the version where I actually have everything written out. But not everybody's comfortable with that stretch. So you could use D minor up here, which is 7, 5, 5, 5, or I could use D minor 7, which is just barring the 5th fret, which is easier, I think, than holding the standard D minor, and it's easier to move to and from. So I will write that 5th fret bar in this version because I do think it's easier for some folks than doing this. But know that if you want, you can hold D minor and just stretch your pinky up to that note. See? Options. So that's for the word want. I'm going to write the number 5 so that we remember it's the 5th fret. All right. There we go. And then the word you is a G note. I am going to strum backward holding my D minor chord, or I could just pluck it. It's kind of up to you what you'd like to do. In the music, I believe I plucked it because it's an 8th note. And so you don't actually have that note happening for very long. And that actually might be what we do right now because it's going to be easier for transitioning to the next chord because you'll be able to lift up your bar and then go down to the next chord. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So high G, folks, you are going to just pluck an open G string for the word you. And we're just going to, do this. Okay. So it's an open G string. For those of you that are playing low G, you are going to do what's in red. You're just going to pluck that note, that G note that's in red, if you're playing low G, because it's the same note. Okay, does that make sense? So I'll write low G option. That way you've got that note. All right, moving on. All I have to do. So we have a B flat note listed, and what do you know? You have the first fret, which is an F note, as your melody note. It sure does look like one of those examples that I cited earlier in the workshop. So what we're gonna do is you can either strum 3 strings or pluck the 2 center notes. It doesn't matter to me which one you do. I'll probably pluck the 2 middle ones because I prefer how that sounds, but it's totally up to you. So.
And again, just a quick reminder that this sheet that Sarah's working on now, she's going to tidy up and mail out to all of those who purchased a packet, so that because we have your information there.
Yeah. So all, and then all I have to, those are all that, this little part here, all I have and to, done. That's really convenient. The word do, C7, is listed, and it is a G note. I'm going to make us strum backwards because that note lasts longer than an eighth of a note, or an eighth of a beat, excuse me. So we're going to play a regular C7, but I want you to make sure that you strum backwards because your melody note is on that, is that G note. Okay, so for that we need to do like that. Okay, so don't forget C7, strum backwards. It'll feel odd at first if you're not used to strumming backward. Okay, but there's that, and then we're just gonna pluck that note, that F note that you see there. Okay.
Did you talk about the melody change in ever? Because it's not A twice, right? A-G-A?
Ever I. No, I got this from actual sheet music. So it's this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, we can discuss that. So Craig is saying, because I had the same thought. So in measure 5, Craig was saying, hey, isn't there actually a melody change? It depends on who you hear sing it. I got this. This is actually sheet music that I purchased to make sure that I was playing exactly what is given out when you have sheet music. But when you are done doing your bass chord melody and figuring things out, you can actually change up your melody a little bit and reharmonize. And you can do that in sections like that.
And make sure you do talking to the mic even when you're
okay, so let's take a look at this. So let's start with whenever I want you, all I have to do is. And let me actually do some X's.
Yeah, and thanks for that heads up on that. Unfortunately, the cable that's connecting her iPad right now is not the longest cable. That's why she keeps having to talk to the side like that.
Sorry, I'll try to write and then come over here and chit chat. Thank you. So, going ahead and trying to play what we've got. So we'll start with measure 5, Ever I Want You. If you want, you can pluck that when, and then ever I. So here we go, really slowly. 1, 2, I'll pluck the when. Whenever I bar the 5th, want, open G if you're doing open. And then the 2 middles, all I have to, and then strum backward, do is, and then we get to do the pretty dream thing coming up. So let's try that one more time. Whenever I want you. 1, 2, 3. Whenever I bar the 5th, want, open G, you, middle. I can play that note. And then we have dream. So here's the little trick that I'm doing for this. And this is where the high G is kind of important. We are going to hold a fancy chord called an F add 9, which is just open, open, 1, open. Okay. We're going to replace the F chord with this because it's an F major chord that happens to have the 9th note in it. Our 9th note is going to be a melody note we end up picking in this phrase, which is why we're holding this chord. So this phrase, what we're going to do is strum down, pluck the open G, pluck the E string, pluck the C, and then just add a finger to the C string on that 2nd fret. I can't really play a D minor chord there because you won't really hear the melody. But let's just practice that real quick, and then I'll talk about maybe adding a chord after you've played the melody note. So what I've done here is strumming the F add 9, which is just open, open, 1, open, G string, E string, C string, add the 2nd fret to the C string. So dream is what we have there. The great thing is it's really simple. Now, that D minor chord, hi Cameron. Cameron's over there having a great time. So, the D minor chord lasts for 2 beats. That's a long time for just one single note to just hang out. So one thing that you can do is after you've played the melody note, you could, if you wanted, add a D minor chord afterward. You just need to make sure you play that melody note so that we hear it, and make sure that we've got that melody note going on. And if I do strum the D minor, I'll probably only strum it once. So it might sound like this. Ugh, that sounded terrible, sorry. Or I could do that, and just strum it the one time. Like that is probably what I would do. And I'm just strumming to mark time and to just give that full chord. We're almost done with the first phrase. Yay! All right. So, dream. So what I'm going to do real fast, I'm going to go through measure 8 and chat about that with you. Then I'm going to go in and write those last 2 measures on my iPad so that I don't leave the mic. So, measure 8, B flat is listed, and we have a note on the 5th fret listed for our melody. What are we going to do? I mean, I guess I could stretch my B flat like this, but I don't think many people are going to be comfortable doing that. I could look at my chord bank and see that I have this B flat listed. But if you remember way back when, in the beginning of this chat, I said, oh, you could try using a substitution chord. And so we can use the one that I cited, which is open 5, 6, 5. How convenient is that? So that we can easily move up here holding what should remind you of a G chord up on that 5th fret. And you have dream, dream. Now we have a C7 with the 3rd fret of the A string listed. We have our 2 options. You could move down to this C7, or you could just move down to what looks like C. And then that B flat note happens for when you do the repeat. When I need you. So that phrase, dream, dream. You could do this, or you could do the bar, or you could do, if you have high G, that B flat note is actually on your G string, and you could get it there. So you have options available to you. So let me write it out in sort of my archaic way on the iPad real fast, and we'll go through and actually play an A section. This is exciting. I hope you guys are the main thing about this is, do you understand the process? Do you see why I'm making the choices that I'm making? Because I want you to understand the concept of it, even if you can't physically get to all the chords in time. Because the whole point of this is so that you can then start trying to create your own chord melodies.
Now, can I add a couple things?
Please, while I'm writing,
Okay,
please do.
So, in that section where I want you, all I have to do is, and so we start with a 2 and 1 on the middle frets. All I have to, and we have the backwards C7. A really easy way to keep that harmony together and still get that melodic or the melody note there. You can do 3 hits on that 0, the 2 middle strings, 2 and 1. All I have to, and just slide up 2 frets. and that's
Yes.
that's the same harmony, the same motion, and you don't. It's easier in some ways, right? But having that open G does give a full chord compared to just the two strings. So there are, this coincides with the question that was just asked about why you would do certain things, because it all depends on what you want, how these things to sound, because there's a million ways to do these things, whether it's a single note or a harmony or a full chord. But again, all that was 2 and 1 on the middle strings. All I have to do, 2 frets up.
And you can slide to it.
Yep, all I have to do. And one more thing on that. What was that? What chord was that?
Which part?
All I have to do is dream.
Yeah.
Now,
D
to a lot of times when we're doing chord melody, a lot of the things that we think about is that we're trying to emulate a voice. And so sometimes, like dream, all of these hits are very, very harsh. So one of the things that we can do to kind of lighten it, like a voice kind of going from one note to another on one breath, is that at the very tail end, instead of a hit on that D note, dream, I might choose to hammer on that D note. So it's going to sound like this. And it's just a little softer than a hit, so it's just one of the small little things, again, to have intent of how you're letting these notes ring or sing in that sense. It's just, and again, these are places where we can add in all of these techniques that we're learning, and why it was so important to dial those things in so that you can apply it to things like this. And again, it's just the biggest thing to remember. If this was a singing the song, how would you phrase it? How would you try to emulate what's happening in your voice? And that's why, we talked about why slides were so important, because we don't typically jump from one note to another note vocally. A lot of times we want to ease into it with a slide, or we want to have that same breath sound. So little things to think about as we go along.
Yes. So the thing I love about this is that those are actually things, that was perfect, Craig, because those are actually things I was going to be bringing up. Because, no, it's great, because again, there's more than one way to do it. What we're doing right now is just finding our base, so that once you know the base of it, then you can start adding nuance and dynamics and really making the song your own. And that's also another great thing too with the middle strings. Yes, absolutely. And the cool thing about this is that, I could do that, or it all is sort of, what do you prefer? And it adds, it'll sound different than your neighbor, but yet you are still doing the same thing. Okay. All right. Here's what I want us to do. Let's do from the very tippy top. Okay? We're going to do it that nice tempo del lerno. So just take your time. We're going to go through this verse. And then we'll repeat it. Why not? I'm just going to sing the same words. I'm not going to bother singing the next verse, I don't think. But I just want you to try to go through the motions and see if you can hear the melody. I'm playing super plain Jane. But those of you that want to try the hammer-on idea that Craig had, or even here instead of the up strum of the C7, you totally can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, let's give it a shot. Here we go. 1, 2, I want D minor, you 4 and rest, and all your charms when F, ever I bar the 5th, 1, and then I could do all I have to do is dream. Move up, dream, dream, dream. Let's repeat. When I feel blue, for rest in the night, when I need you, and G minor to hold me tight, F, ever would be the second ending. But dream is probably all I would do there for the second ending, which is that F at 9, G string, and then the note there. And then we've got some other stuff going on in our next measures. How did that sound and how did that feel? So one thing I did notice is in measure 5, what I would probably do for the word you after you bar, I would probably just do that open A, because I realized I actually forgot to give you that note. I only gave you the G note. So I'm sorry about that. So let me just write that in my notes real quick. Open A. Yeah, because the word you is actually you 2 notes. And I totally missed that one note. So sorry about that. Let's try it one more time now that we've discovered my mistake. Okay. 1, 2, 3. When I want you and will rest in my arms when I want you. It's little rest and all your charms. F ever I bar A G. All I have to do is dream. Move up. Dream, dream, dream. Again, when I feel blue and we rest in the night when I want you and will rest to hold me tight whenever bar want you. Oh, all I have to do is dream. And then we've got F7, and then it continues on. I can make you mine, taste your lips of wine. So I will go over quickly the second half of the song later. I actually want to go ahead and bring up something that's later in the packet because it goes in with what Craig was talking about. And I just want to kind of give you sort of more examples of you can do things a variety of different ways. Is that okay with everybody? And hopefully everybody, hopefully everybody is enjoying how this arrangement is sounding. I'm glad that it's making it look so easy. Yay, that's fantastic. The hammer-on, if you were going to do the hammer-on, would be on measure. I can pull it up. It would be measure 7, the D minor, the note on the C string on that second fret. That would be a hammer-on if you wanted to give that a try. The other great thing too about transitioning from measure 6 to 7 is that the word is, you are actually already holding the F note that you need to be holding for the next phrase. So it's already under your fingers and you're good to go. So I want you guys in your packet to actually flip to page 6. And the reason is that, and I don't have page 6 for us to put up on the thing, plus it would be really, it would be actually pretty difficult to look at. So looking at your packet, you'll notice that I've got the very beginning first 2 measures of the song. It's when I need you, da da da, and it's, so what I've got going on here is we've got a version where you can pick and strum as opposed to strumming the whole time. So what we did was when I need you in my arms, right? So it's all just strumming away. This one, I can do a strum and a pick. So it would sound like this. When I want you, right? And I also switched up to the C7, but I could use this one if I wanted. So again, that was instead of strumming the whole time, strum, pick, strum, and then we're gonna go to the G minor, same thing. In, pick, and then C, when. So you could do that instead if you wanted to add a little bit of variety. The next example that I cite on that page is you could add like arpeggiation. This is a little bit fancy, but I could do something like when I, oh sorry, made you. So I added a little bit of playing other notes. Now, one thing that I didn't do that I need to make sure I do, and I'll do it this time, is if you're going to add other notes that aren't the melody note to the party, you need to play those notes more. You need to make sure those notes don't overshadow the melody. So play them a bit quieter. So something more like when. Right? So making sure that any other notes that I'm picking that aren't melody are just a little bit less in volume. This takes a bit more nuance to be able to do, but it does sound really cool and it adds a little bit of time, right? Also, I have a substitution variation you could do. Again, for that same phrase, I could do I want, using that F add 9 instead of the F. So listening to here's F, and then here it is with the add 9. It's a very lush sounding chord, and you may or may not like it for this part, but, and then instead of G minor, I might use G minor 7, which looks like that B flat major 6 chord. In my, and then I can scoot it up, that exact same shape, kind of like what Craig was talking about in a different part of the song. And I've got the notes I need for that C7 under my fingers as well. So that again was the F add 9, and then add the D minor, hold G minor 7 instead, which is open 2 1 1, scoot up 2 frets, and I've got that phrase. So we've just done the first few measures 4 different ways. And yet there's one other way that I want to show you and kind of quickly go over, which is using that G string if you have to play high G. So I could actually strum down and up because this is the same note in my F chord. So I could do when I want you, right? Same with my G minor chord. Actually, I'm going to play, it's going to look like B flat because I'm going to add that note because that way I have the same note on those strings. In my, right? So in my, and I could scoot up, arms. And then I'd probably switch to there and get that note there on that string. Or I could switch early to that C7 that's on the 3rd fret. So just for fun, let's try this one again. So down, up, down. So when I want you, and then we're going to hold what looks like B flat. In my, you can move it to arms, a C7. When, again, you're utilizing that high G string, getting to play some of your melody on that. So I'm going to go through and just play all these variations one after the other, starting with our original. So you can play along with me if you want, or you can just listen. The great thing about these virtual workshops, I'm just realizing though, is that you don't have to worry about anyone noodling except yourself. So here we go. The very first one is what we did in class so far. When I need you in my arms. Pick strum variation. I want you. Then the arpeggiated one. The add 9 or the substitution variation. The strumming up and down. For rest. So, all different ways that you can play that same phrase. So think about that as you are going through and sorting out your chord melody. There's more than one way to do things, and there's a plethora of even more ways. If Craig were to arrange a song, and I have an arrangement, and we come together, we're going to each play it differently because of our own experiences as people and as musicians, and because the different techniques that we are most fond of. So keep that in mind as you are going through and creating your own chord melodies to things. I'm just going to double check the chat, making sure I didn't miss any questions before I move on. Now, what I think I am going to do, excuse me. Oh, I love that folks are saying so many options. Yup. The F add 9 looks like a normal F. Let me look. It shouldn't. Oh, I see what. Yeah, oh, no, it's you might be looking at the wrong line. 1, 2, 3. It's the third line down. That's the F add 9, and it has that open note on the G string. But there we go. Yay! I'm so glad that folks are enjoying the different versions and things. That's great. So all of my uke music and tabs don't have melody notes. What should I do about getting music? The great thing about the internet is you can actually buy a lot of different sheet music, but also your ear is a fantastic tool. If you know the song really well, you can actually sit and pick out the melody yourself. You don't have to have sheet music. Sheet music is handy, and I like using it to sort of double and triple check things. And it's nice to have that tangible thing. But I think that you could just type in your song and say sheet music, and a lot of times sheet music will pop up. And then somebody was saying that, the chart at the top. I see. Sorry. So on page 6, yes, that is a typo. The F add 9 diagram shouldn't even be up there in the first place. That was a mistake. So you can just X out that, because that shouldn't be there up there. But in the music itself, it's actually okay. Thank you. I always joke, there's always at least one mistake in my handouts. But yes, thank you guys for catching that. Awesome. Now, can you recommend software for writing chord charts down the way you have? The software that I used for this is Guitar Pro. I have the most recent version, which is, I think, Guitar Pro 7.5, I think. I love it. It's not always super intuitive, but there's lots of YouTube tutorials and stuff. I've actually also thought of doing tutorials on it for uke players just to help you get up and running, because once you make a template for yourself, it's pretty easy to just input stuff. I love being able to go in and write out music quickly, whether it's stuff I've written or arrangements for us. It's very, very handy. And I am glad that somebody mentioned, I've been working on memorizing my notes on my fretboard. Yes, it's very important. You'll notice the last page of our packet, we've given you something that's actually a part of our online school, which is a sheet where Craig talks. In the lesson, Craig discusses the chord shapes and moving them up the neck, and how there's really 4 main shapes. And he goes through those, and knowing your chords in different positions really is a gateway to chord melody. We highly recommend spending some time working on your different chord inversions, because then you'll be able to think ahead and go, oh, why don't I try this F here? Why don't I try this B flat here, etc. So what I'm
real quick, I want to do something real quick. So, okay. Because this actually ties into something earlier too, was when people are asking, why is it important to learn not only your different shapes, but we talked about the different voicings. People were asking what was jazz voicings, but even just any kind of, I'm going to do a combination. We have the same 4 chords: F, D minor, B flat, and C7 or C or C7.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, again, knowing your different shapes, knowing your different kind of 4 chord voicings that you can use to substitute, even as a rhythm player that's backing someone up.
Yes.
You can create so much movement and so much texture, like.
want you. All I have to do is dream, 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 dream when I...
So I mean, there's so much you can do, but that's why the more voicings, the more chord shapes we know, we can be more articulate, we can be more poetic with our chords, with our
Yes.
backing tracks, you know. So that's why, you know, for us it's so important to start really opening your mind to some of these kind of different voices and
Yeah.
taking the time to learn them.
Yes.
Okay.
So we are actually coming to a close, but don't fret. Ha ha ha. So one thing, actually, I'm just gonna leave that there. You'll notice that we didn't get to the "I can make you mine, taste your lips of wine." So back to page 4. This isn't too bad. So let's take a look real quick. So measure 11. We have a B flat listed, and we have a note on the 5th fret listed. Do we happen to play a B flat chord up there already in the song? Why, yes, we did. We used the one that looked like that G chord. So that one being this, and it's just that chord the whole time. I can make you mine. Pretty easy. The next one is an A minor chord is listed. The 3rd fret of the A string is listed. So I'm going to hold A minor, and then I'm going to add that 3rd fret. And then again, it's that the whole time. Taste your lips of wine. Or I could do all downs. Taste your lips of wine. There we go. So I have, I can make you mine. Taste your lips of wine. Anytime. That's G minor. So hold G minor. There's my melody note. It's already in the chord. Anytime. And then it's a C7. I could, again, use this C7, which we talked about. Or I could just scoot this finger over. Night and day. So I have in measure 14, there's an F chord listed. The melody note is that open A. So F7 is also listed. One thing I can do is instead of adding the full F7, oh, was I not up? I'm sorry. Instead of adding that full F7, I could just add that ring finger. So let me start from measure 11 again. So I played this B flat. I can make you mine, which looks like a G chord. Scoot it down to A minor with that 3rd fret. Taste your lips of wine, G minor. Anytime, and then I'm just going to scoot him over. Night and then an F chord, day, add ring, and then it almost repeats. B flat, move up here, what looks like G on the 5th fret. Only trouble is, now we have the G whiz that we practiced earlier, so I'm going to put a finger on the 7th fret. I'm going to pluck that G, slide down to the A minor, whiz, and then we have that G7 that's giant, open 3, 5, 3, dream in my life, scoot it down, have this finger sticking out, move it down, way, and then it repeats. So that part isn't too bad. So let me go through it real quick. So I have, starting on measure 11, I can make you mine, A minor with the 3rd fret of the A string, taste your lips of wine, G minor, anytime, and then I'm just going to add this guy instead of doing the barred C7, night and day, add the F7 note, and then jump back up to the G shape on that 5th fret. The only trouble is, pluck the 7th fret with my ring, G, slide down to A minor, whiz, and have that 3rd fret. And then that big G7 we practiced way long ago, earlier in the stream. Dream in my life, scoot down, away, I need you so. And you have that in the next few pages. I actually have it all written out, and I'll make sure to do it in the archaic fashion of that I used for on the iPad as well after I get that all nice and tidy. But it's really great that to be able to have a song like this where a lot of it is in the first position, and then with just a few small substitutions you can make some of the harder jumps just a little bit easier. And so hopefully I've given you tools to be able to do your own chord melody. That was the idea of this, not necessarily to teach you a song, but to give you the tools so that you can do it too, because we want you to be able to tell your own stories with these songs.
Yeah, and again, this will be up and archived so you guys can watch it as many times as you want. And we'll since he's doing good, we'll try one last thing for you guys.
Oh yeah, and so and one little segue thing is we do teach chord melody in our online school as well. We have a variety of songs, including a series of jazz standards. The Nearness of You, In a Sentimental Mood, All of Me, that kind of thing. And I try to take you sort of step by step going through it with your chords, and then with the video exchange program you can go through it, and then we can also discuss, oh bless you, we can also discuss different ways that you can change chords or use substitutions and things as well. It's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, so again, thank you guys. It's great to see our Artist Work students here as well. We're gonna do what's the second verse chord melody, and then to the bridge, and then but come in on the tail end.
Oh, you want me to actually sing a little bit?
On the last, yeah.
On the last verse?
Yeah, that'll be good. But again, thank you guys so much for your support.
Yeah.
You know, I always feel weird putting this on, but if you do really enjoy this stuff, and we have a donation thing there. And really, it is investing in what we do. You know, we try to do as much as we can for the youth community, but, you know, even if it's helping pay for those of people who can't necessarily pay for a packet right now, those kind of things for future events,
yes.
You guys are helping pay that forward, and thank you guys so much for your support. We're gonna end with a little bit of Nearness, I think.
Yeah, just we'll see if Cameron will oblige.
Cameron, can we do a little bit?
Cameron, is that okay, Mr. Executive Producer?
Maybe I'll hold him because if you can keep going.
Oh right.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye. After this, someone's gonna take a nap.
And Cameron.
Awesome. So thank you guys again for joining us. It's been our pleasure. We're going to do this again. Don't forget, July 11th. Alrighty.
Oh, that's not me.
soft lights to enchant me with you. Oh, to hold you ever so tight, and to feel in the night the nearness of you. Thanks, everybody. Woo! Nice. Yeah.
Good job, baby.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for joining us again. This was really a blast, and I'll make sure I'll try to get out an updated thing to those of you that have bought the packet today, and also prior to today. The updated sheet with the sort of archaic way I wrote it, because it is kind of nice seeing the shapes. Tablature sometimes doesn't always give you that. So thank you guys so much. Thank you also for those of you that just donated outside of the packet itself. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. And again, don't forget, July 11th is our next big one. We might have a few live tech rehearsals leading up to it.
Yes.
Be sure to be on our mailing list to check all of that out. We'll do some tech stuff as well.
And real quick, somebody said, what mics are those? They are Roswell Pro Audio. I've got the Mini K87, and I believe Craig has the 47 on his. Yeah, they're really amazing mics. We love them so much. So thank you for noticing and asking.
Yes, and again, thank you guys for your support. Thank you for supporting live music and the ukulele. We are so blessed to have you guys join us. And again, if there are things that you'd like to see more of, feel free to send us a note, either an email or through our forum online. And we're going to try and do as much as we can before the big move.
Woo!
So again, thank you guys so very much. Can you please clarify movable chord shapes on your update? I will definitely, for the next big workshop, will be my my theory class, and we'll definitely be talking about those movable chord shapes as well. Please post the PayPal link again. I'll put that up really quick.
There we go.
But we, again, have a ton of fun doing what we do, and we can't do it without your support. So thank you so very, very, very much.
Yay!
And again, there are some big things that we're going to start experimenting with to just trying to kind of change it up. I know there's so many things out there, and we want to have, some very special things that we can do that really are going to be in tune with what you guys want to learn and want to see more of. And there are a bunch of things in the works that I'll be slowly announcing soon.
Woo woo! And don't forget to like any video of ours that you watched and enjoys. Please don't forget to do the like button, because that ends up putting it higher in the queue and stuff for us. It's very handy.
Yes,
so please like and subscribe and all of that jazz. Thank you guys so much. Any cheap
microphone recommendations? The inexpensive mics that I'd recommend, I mean, any of the USB mics like the Blue Yeti, the Snowballs, usually about $75 is going to be about the range where you're going to want to start looking at. Anything cheaper than that typically aren't better than your onboard microphones, so about the USB ones are very great for this kind of stuff. It's definitely going to be, the more controls the better. But I'll actually do, I love the tech stuff. I love the tech side of things. We might do a dedicated live stream later where we just talk about different audio gear for all kinds of budgets, different video options. I think that'll be great.
The uke I was playing, this is an OHA model by Kanilea. It's really awesome. The OHAs are great. They're handmade in Kaneohe, Hawaii. It's koa top, but mahogany sides and back, and it sounds great. I love this uke, and it's the matte finish, so you don't have all the crazy reflections for the lives, which is part of why we ended up getting these models. They're fantastic. Awesome.
Michael Kent, we are currently using the Canon mirrorless cameras, the EOS R. I've always been into photography and video work. So it's always fun. Yeah, I think a tech session would be fun.
Yeah, let's do it.
I got a chance to do a kind of almost like a TED talk for the Australian Ukulele Teacher Association, and that was a lot of fun. We talked about how to maximize your video and audio quality with like a $30 setup, and things like that. Again, part of it is just like the ukulele. You can do so much with it, but if you don't utilize what you have, like for example, yes, we always talk about how to utilize that whole fretboard, but at the same time, you can use those first 3 frets in many different ways, and having that control and that tone, you can do so much with just that. So I mean, there's I always talk about how to utilize what you already have instead of spending a lot of money to throw at it.
Yeah, and then Craig can go into the switcher and stuff, because somebody asked the switcher. Yes, we've got the switcher and all
yes,
of that
we
too.
used to have a bunch of the cam links, but it was just so hard
Unreliable.
on the computer, trying to have like 3 or 4 different cameras connected. So we went to a switcher. We are currently using the ATEM Mini Pro. We had the original version as well, and they both are fantastic switchers.
Mini.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I will have different like $30 setups, $75 setups, and up. It's a lot of fun. And a lot of it is just being, again, creative. For example, there's really only one big light on me, but it's not even facing me. It's bouncing off of the wall and then kind of cascading down. So it's a softer light.
And then I've got one big light here in front of me, and then we have 2 soft boxes, which are actually our torch lights that we use for the living room, on either side, bouncing light off of the ceiling. Nice. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been an absolute blast.
Yes.
So until next time, definitely July 11th. We'll hopefully see you guys there. It'll be an all-day affair. Pack a lunch.
Yes.
And we'll let you know, join our mailing list if you want to know when we're going to do more live streams like this. We'll definitely, I think a tech one and a Guitar Pro one sound like they are in our future for sure. So thank you guys so very much, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.
I'll leave you with a close-up of this big guy.
The baby.
All right. Say bye.
Say bye, aunties. Bye, uncles. Aloha.
All right, aloha, guys.
Bye.